This is Get Inspired with Dr. Barb.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my show, Get Inspired with Dr. Barb. Our show is devoted to innovation in education, and one particular topic, neurodiversity, is especially critical, I think, as far as helping us all getting education better. I believe that understanding neurodivergent people a little bit more than we do now can lead to improving education for them, because we have a huge population of neurodivergent students in the school, and improving education for them, I believe, can improve ultimately education for everyone literally in the educational system. And we also need more awareness as far as neurodiversity and neurodivergent people, their strengths, benefits working with them out there in the larger society. So this is not only about the educational system, but the educational system is a big piece of it, of helping them and improving education. And every time I can speak to someone who has something to contribute, say, about this topic, it's a special episode for sure. And today we have a fabulous guest. His name is Josh Mirsky. Welcome, Josh, to my show, Get Inspired with Dr. Barb.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. And it's an honor for me to have you on my show, definitely. Josh, you are a creator of the idea and design for Neurodiversity Strength Flag. And that's what I wanted to say out there to our wonderful audience, listeners or viewers, if you watch us on YouTube. Can you tell us a little bit more about this project, when it started, and anything else you would like to tell us about how this idea kind of originated? Why the flag? Why not something else as far as advocacy for neurodivergent people?
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
And for the viewers watching this, you'll notice lots of things in the background. These are all signed from government. That one in the gold is from the former president of the United States. Whole bunch of cool stuff. But the thing we're going to point at right there, that's a prototype of the flag. So I'll get into that really soon. The idea came while I was working one time, and I just had a random thought, flags, like, why don't we have one? I was thinking about the pride flag, and, the pride flag's really good and all, and it's a symbol of tolerance. When people see it, tolerance. When you see a store have the pride flag, you know what they're about, you know what they support, the group they support. I thought that's great and all, but why don't we have one? So I started just talking to people, I said, why don't we have a flag for neurodiversity? And they're like, oh, Josh, it's just one of those things. It's not necessary. I say, no, it's not just one of those things, and it is necessary. Why do you say that? Oh, well, I was like, yeah, no, that's garbage. It isn't necessary. So I went on this idea, and I would often go to, my local beach is Jones Beach. I'm in Long Island, New York.
Yeah.
I often go to the beach with friends or with I want to date, sometimes with girlfriends, and we go past this flagpole. And every single time we pass this one flagpole, the main flagpole at the beach, I would stop and I'd point there. I said, no, I'm going to create a flag, and one day it's going to be there, and one day the whole world's going to know it. And I'd go on this talk, and I'd go like a rant, and it would go on and on. Now, did they probably lose interest in it? Absolutely, yeah. But I'd just go on and on at this one flagpole in Jones Beach every single time, which is run by the Parks Department. I say to get back to that later on, but I always say that. So this is all 2021. I believe it was October 2021 is the first time I put it on camera on record that I wanted to create this. It was in Queens where I said that I want to create something called the Neurodiversity Strength Flag.
Mm-hmm.
First time I publicly said it. So at this point, I was already a part of a government board called the New York State Autism Spectrum Disorders Advisory Board. I got in there late 2020, early 2021. I was also networking like crazy. I had and people at this point started to get my information. 2 former senators had it, and there are 3 senators who got me on the board. But they had my contact information, and I kept messaging them, talking to them, calling them up, telling them about this flag design. And one got back to me. I was like, okay, let's meet about this in his office. But then these people, they call me during work and stuff. I still sometimes at work I get calls from Congress people, but that's another story. I know. Say this one guy, senator, said, well, Do you have the design for it? And I was like, I will do that right now because I have a meeting real soon. I sped over to an art store and I said, all right, well, where are your oil pastels? And I remember saying, and this guy, like, I remember he was like, you could tell he was like high, so he wasn't really knowing what's going on. And I said, I'm creating a flag that's gonna be known throughout the state and the world. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. What? I was like, okay, whatever. It's all over here, man. And I got like this. I don't know what's called. It's not a ruler. It's like this thing which is bent. Whatever it is, and these oil pastels. So I went home and I have the vision in my head already. So and then I made that.
Yep.
It took me about 15 minutes to make that. Not that long. A little bit longer to spread out the oil.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just sitting, not framed, just like on my table. Like it's, and whenever people come over, I show them this is gonna be famous one day. This is gonna be in a museum. Yeah, but it came from the idea that I looked at flags. Flags are symbols of movements, and I'm a millennial. And what I'm gonna say is understand the context of the time. When I was in like middle school and high school, the term "gay" was an insult in school. When you did something which is socially inappropriate or considered weird, instead of saying that's weird or that's dumb, they'd say that's gay. That was an insultive term back when I was growing up. Again, I'm a millennial, so we're going back a little while. Weird to say, but yeah. Now, around that time, also, the pride flag started becoming more and more in public conscious. Now, one thing which you notice, if you look back, is as that flag became more and more prominent in social circles and mainstream society, that terminology stopped becoming an insult. People stopped using that in public circles as an insult. There's a direct correlation. Now, what happens is this. You have the flag, any flag comes first. The flag is the thing that leads the charge. Then comes the understanding which is behind the flag.
Yeah.
As that flag, whatever it is, becomes more and more accepted in social circles, the message naturally becomes more and more accepted in social circles. As that bleeds in and seeps in, then it becomes not as socially acceptable and tolerable to make insults and to bash said group. So the flag, is my pride and joy, is only the first step in this entire plan. It is. Now, what are some things which I'm trying to change with this? There are a few. I'll say one, which is again back. This goes back like to I think 2019. When I first experienced this, I believe it was 2019. So I was single at the time, and I downloaded a dating app, or 2020. And at the time I was running a podcast with a business partner of mine and dear friend Dave. Ended up doing a TED talk with him. But no, it was 2019. First, I was on a dating app and I matched with this girl, and we're talking. And I said I'm a podcaster. She's like, "Oh, that's really cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. Very cool." And then I said the name of it. I said, "Oh, let me look it up." Then unmatched me immediately. I said, "What happened?" But then I realized that it's because she found out I'm autistic. And this would happen a lot. Whenever people would find out I'm on the spectrum, they would unmatch me. For years, this will always happen, like 90% of the time. And I thought, why is that? And I talked to other autistic people, other neurodivergent people, and they say the same thing. When they find out, they'll match you. Well, but why is that? And I think it's because of this enemy, and the enemy is the stigma. And that's what I always talk about. Stigmas are true enemies. They affect your ability to get a job. They affect your ability to date. They affect your ability to just be accepted. It's because of stigmas. That is what it is. So the only option I felt I had is to attack the stigmas, because I'm not someone who just like lays back. If someone hits me, I gotta punch, metaphorically hits me, I gotta punch him and kick him, metaphorically. So the stigma I felt hit me, so I have to punch and kick it. So the way I punch and kick it is I beat it, and fortunately or unfortunately, that means I have to go all the way and change how society views neurodivergent people. Because this affects how you get jobs, this affects how you get friends, this affects how you are accepted in social circles, this affects how you're dating, all this stuff. And people who are outside of this don't realize it, but it's true. It affects so much.
It is totally true. I have a neurodivergent child, 18-year-old, obviously I still call them child. And it can be it can be very hard. It is. It is changing a little bit, but what you have said, that you decided to take some action, to do something actually, not to take it and, become just the victim, but to change something about it. And that is easy to say, but more difficult to do. But just going back to the idea of the flag, you already have some connections, some networking done. So that was just so perfect. But one thing that stuck with me too when I heard you about this dream, seeing that flagpole and like imagining that the flag that you're thinking about, even though you didn't even have design yet at that time, would be there. This is really very powerful because you were envisioning some kind of reality already at that time. It's important that we have a big dream and the vision. Sometimes people laugh at us that we have those big dreams. Yeah, all right, whatever, another dreamer. And you felt like that too a little bit, right?
When I tell myself I'm going to do something, do it. I have to do it. There's no option. I will literally do whatever. I mean, whatever
Yeah.
sacrifice what I need to do in order to make it happen.
But that's amazing, Josh. That is something. I mean, you are an amazing role model for other neurodivergent people because what we have now, we don't have enough neurodivergent people out there on social media telling their stories. We need them. We also need their parents to speak out more because nobody will do this for us. And you are an example of this. Nobody, if you were just sitting there and waiting until people accept neurodivergent people more, where would we be? So we need neurodivergent community, which includes those children, teens, young people. A lot of them are unemployed because most of the people, autistic people, are unemployed. That is the statistics and that's the truth. But they do have some power. And then you just said something very important. I need to do something and I need to just put my hands on it and do something. It doesn't mean that everybody has to come up with a project of this magnitude, figuring out a flag or something like that. This is huge.
I mean, just getting started.
Yeah.
I'm just speak. I mean, I'm autistic. I have OCD, a bunch of other stuff. So, and I understand neurodiversity is a whole bunch of things: epilepsy, OCD, all this stuff. But
Yeah.
right now, I'm just gonna speak on behalf of autism for this thing I'm about to say. Another reason I made this was because April's Autism Awareness Month is called Acceptance Month, whatever you want to call it, right? And for years, and I got sick of reading this. You'd hear, "Don't light it up blue, light it up red, light it up gold, don't do blue, please God, don't do blue." You'd hear people hating Autism Month and they're autistic. Why? Because you hear also, this month they're stolen from us. Now, because I'm actively going at them, I want to avoid using their name, this organization, but I think a majority of people here can infer as what
Right.
I'm talking about. But there's an entity which uses a color that blue that is highly offensive to many autistic people. Unfortunately, due to autism being a communication disorder, this is not being able to be expressed to mainstream society, only within circles within this community. And I was also tired of, and I'm going to refrain from using names, I hope you understand, seeing other influencers within this community, like bending the knee. I'm going to refrain from using names, but then all of a sudden collaborating with them, saying, "Oh, it's not a big deal," and then even going to events by them. Now, I will state that when I first started my I hate using this word, but journey, 2018, 2019, when I first became accepting of myself, I spoke at one of their events, and I was on what I call their like false board, which they had a couple people just talking, nothing really came of it. As soon as I figured out what they were, I told them, "You're not allowed to use my likeness or anything." But back to the forums online, I'd always hear people complaining, but not one person really did anything. All they did was complain. I thought, you know what? I want them to know that they're being heard.
Yeah.
So there's some reasons why gold and red are in the flag, but that's definitely one of them because that's what people would say. I think that it's important that if you have an enemy, you go at it. You don't just let the enemy win. That includes stigmas and that includes this organization. I also feel that when you have an enemy, it's important that you do not bend the knee to the enemy, no matter what they may or may not have offered you behind the scenes. I have ideas of certain people who may have been offered things. I do not have any evidence I can put on here which can corroborate that, nor would I if I did. But I want people to know that there are people out there who stand on their morals completely, who will not take favors for anything, and who actively understand what's going on, or who are genuinely for this cause. This organization, they will never be able to win me over with any favors or anything. The only thing they could possibly do to bring me on would be they have a flag and a symbol. The only thing which I would speak on their behalf with them is if they fly this flag over that flag at their headquarters as a symbolism that they are bending the knee to this population. Then we could talk. But there would be no exchange of any other favors than that. And that's because that's them submitting to this population, saying that we win. Because I view everything as competition. It's either we win or they win. That's it. And I feel that we are going to win. I think history's on our side, momentum's on our side. I'm currently doing things that I am not going to say on camera, but
Right.
I think that I definitely think we are going to win. I honestly think it's going to happen soon, sooner rather than later.
I think so. And you are one of the reasons because of your, this is the mindset, right? I need to take some action. But this is the mindset that we want other neurodivergent individuals also to slowly start thinking about. I want to ask you, what would you suggest to a neurodivergent individual, someone in let's imagine someone in high school, I don't know, 15, 16-year-old, and they kind of like sick of it, how they are treated out there in the society. Maybe in school, they also not getting what they deserve in terms of education, right? It's just kind of a general sort of profile here. What would you suggest to this person that they can do, think, or start thinking about?
A couple of things. I'd say, first of all, congratulations, you're blessed. You're being bullied, you're blessed. You're being screwed. The reason you're blessed is because you're now being given fuel to do something. Nothing great comes from comfort. Great change always comes from discomfort. Second, you're being given a dose of reality. The real world, right, quite frankly, they don't care if you're sad. Like some people do, but like naturally, they don't care if you're sad. You gotta work for things. Nothing of substance is gonna come to you just because you feel you're owed it. You have to work for it. This is the truth. I feel lots of people in our community, and this is why they set them up to failure. Why they coddle them. They say, "Oh, poor thing, look at you, oh poor boo hoo hoo." And then what happens, especially when they're young, is that you'll have people just giving them everything. Like, "Oh, poor Billy has this. He has this disability, so let's make it 10 times easier." And then what happens to Billy when he gets into the quote-unquote real world? He gets slapped in the face. No one's coddling him. No one's just giving you things because you exist and you're cute. That doesn't happen. When you're in school, you have to realize that in the real world, nothing's just going to be handed to you. So if you're going through a hard time in school, you're getting bullied, the teachers are screwing you over, the system's slamming you, that's toughening you up. You're getting a dose of reality now, so you're going to be better equipped to handle the real world than someone who's being coddled. The worst thing, and this, if you're a parent, I'm telling you, the worst thing you can do to your kid is coddle them. I know it's like, oh, you want to make it easy, but you're actually punishing them in the future. The worst thing you can possibly do is coddle, because what you're putting in them is the victim mentality. Poor me, I'm disabled. Boo-hoo. People are often like, "Josh, your parents did such a good job." It's because I wasn't coddled. That's why I'm like I am. Because I wasn't coddled. I'm giving you the whole secret. You love your kid, yes. Help them, yes. But don't coddle them. Don't, when I start feeling bad for myself. My parents, like my mom in particular, will always say, "Oh, look, you're doing the victim mentality again." I became extremely aware of victim mentality at a young age. A very young age. I understood that nothing's really just handed to you in life. You need to let them know that, because a lot of my peers, and I'm not going to use their names, but people who I know for years who have the same abilities that I do, don't really do anything. They're still waiting for handouts. And it's because of mentality. Because I've met their parents, and their parents have coddled them their entire life.
When you say cuddle them, what do you exactly mean?
Every single thing for them. I'm fighting all their battles for them, saying, "Oh, it's okay that you didn't get this. Here, you'll get this. Like, for example, like I'm going to use this as an example. It's real. If you give everyone a participation trophy, in life, people win and people lose at things. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality.
Yeah.
If you give everyone a participation trophy, they go in life thinking they'll get a participation trophy just because they were. And that's not the case. Sometimes in life, you don't get it, and you need to be tough. And again, I'm just saying this because this is how I was brought up. And because people always ask me over and over, Josh, how come you are the way you are? I'm telling you exactly it. You need to not coddle people. Learn the truth. In life, people sometimes win and then sometimes people lose. It's the way it is. You don't always win. You don't always lose. You need to learn how to deal with being uncomfortable. You need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Because if you aren't, what's going to happen is you're going to get triggered by stuff. And when you get triggered, if you're not comfortable being uncomfortable, that's going to throw you off completely with everything. And then people can control you because then they can intentionally trigger you because they know the response they'll get. If you learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable, people will not be able to control you because they can't just trigger you and say, oh, they're going to do their response.
Right.
When I was in middle school, I was not comfortable being uncomfortable. And this kid, Max, would always trigger me and get the response. And I'd always get in trouble. I'd always get detentions because of it. I learned through that experience that you need to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That was my So you can learn lots of lessons while being uncomfortable.
I think that this is very powerful and also very difficult for parents because, and also what contributes to this is the, educational system, unfortunately, labeling children, right? You are autistic, you are not. And then it's easy then to kind of think, I am autistic, therefore I don't have to maybe do all that.
I was a behavior. I was diagnosed at 13, and the system of me didn't care. I was also bullied not by only the kids, but by the system itself. They bullied me too. Teachers would throw glue at me. Horrible things. Okay, so it wasn't that. Back then, they didn't care, at least in my situation. So I had to constantly fight. I saw my parents fight the system. All that. I grew up seeing fight, so I always learned basically that in life you're gonna have to fight for things. You have to fight for what's right. Things are not gonna be handed to you. Sometimes things are extremely unfair. I had the school system against me. I had the special ed against me. All of them against me. I learned that you gotta fight. So, and I honestly, looking back, I think that was a gift from God because I became really tough. You could throw anything at me and I'll be okay. I'll be uncomfortable, but I'll be okay because of that. That's why I said earlier on, one of the best things to happen to you, if you're a kid right now in high school, if you're getting bullied, it stinks, yeah, but also it's toughening you up. You're going to be prepared for whatever comes next.
It is true. I mean, my child has experiences like that too. So what I say to that, well, I know it was bad. I know it sucked, but you are building your resilience now. And Kalina does tell me you are right, Mom. And that is important. It's a tricky situation. It's a balance, right? Because you're saying don't cuddle them, but then at the same time, as parents, when your child has difficulties in school, your job is to go and fight for what they need, right? And you would agree with that.
Yeah, of course. But also tell them, this I'm gonna go fight for you. But also, let them know that this is tough and that you prepare them for when they need to fight their own battles too. Say, this is one time, actually twice, I remember, I would be in the room as there are meetings about me and my mom would be fighting on my behalf and I'd be sitting there as she's fighting the system and I'd be in the same room. I was learning how to do it. I was learning that, okay, these teachers who are smiling at me in front of me are actually stabbing me in the back. So I was learning the real things. I was learning sometimes in life, people who smile at you are really the ones who are stabbing you in the back. I learned that sometimes people appear smiling and they'll give you a hug, but they're wearing velvet gloves, but they're really holding a dagger stab. I learned that at a young age. So I think that's important. If you can, bring your kid to one of the meetings and insist on that. Let them see who the real enemy is. It's the truth. It's the truth.
It is the truth, yeah.
Because those people who are yelling at your kid in the meetings are going to be smiling at them. And then they're going to come home not understanding why you're mad at that teacher. Why is mom and dad upset with the teacher? They're super happy with me. Show them. Show them. Rip away the facade. I know it's tough, but do it. Trust me. The future them will thank you.
You're right. Building toughness, building resilience, it is very important. And also with that, because of how much neurodivergent kids go through in the educational system, and not only, they have to also learn, and that's probably something you had to learn too, how you cope with these setbacks, stress, these situations, because as we know, young people cope in different ways. It can lead to all kinds of substance abuse and other things. So learning how you cope with these situations, because we all have these situations. We all have to learn how to cope with stress, how to cope with anxiety, how to cope with something doesn't work. And it doesn't matter if you're autistic or not. We all have to learn that. How did you learn that?
Well, I mean, first things first, when it comes to smoking, drugs, or anything, it was instilled in me at a very young age that those are just absolute like evils. You just don't do them. So,
Mm-hmm.
no one in my family does those. Never have. We're all instilled with those values that it's just
Yeah.
it's not what you do. If you're in this family, it's not what you do. So we never have done it, never will. When you're instilled with that, it's just kind of one of those things which you don't touch. But me, I would throw myself into things. Like I'd build model planes.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
I'd build stuff since I was like 14, 13 or 14. I started doing that. I throw myself into obsessions like aircraft.
Mm-hmm. No, that's really very good advice. Doing something again, right? And you're certainly a doer.
I started working and volunteering when I was 13 at a museum. So and
Yeah.
people at the museum are like World War II veterans, Vietnam veterans. Um, So surround yourself with strong people. I mean, one time I remember I got used by this girl in 11th grade, and I was really upset. And I go to the museum, and there are these Vietnam guys that painting this thing, a military drab green, like, hey, come over here. As they're doing, I'm like complaining to them, like, oh, you just like in Vietnam vets. So I'm not gonna use the terms they say, to keep it appropriate for this podcast. They said some things, and they're like, she's just some chick, blah blah blah. Like, you gotta toughen up, and it was good. And these are people who, like, again, around like my age at the time, were fighting in Vietnam. So you have tough but good people as role models who you surround yourself
Mm-hmm.
with. That's the key. You're going to want to find people. It doesn't matter if if they're older. People who are positive role models, people who've done good things, to instill strong, good values into you. I can guarantee you, the military, but none of them are saying, "Oh, you should probably start smoking for this." No, they're not.
Right.
They're not. They have a lot of experience and everything like that. They were not telling me that. They were telling me how to toughen up, how to deal with the situation. Pretty much it's like, yeah, the situation you are in is bad. It stinks. But you have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
It happened. You can't make it not happen. But from this point on, it's up to you to decide what you do. So it was instilled in me also that I have way more control over things than I think, because it's
That's
always
true.
up to you to decide how you react.
Well, it's very important to have, these parents who are just, I hope I am a parent like that for my daughter. And now to just kind of go back to the flag a little bit, I want to just make sure to ask this question. Can you tell us a little bit in which places, buildings, can you give us examples of buildings where the flag currently is displayed? That would be interesting for our audience to know that too.
Usually it's during April, and it's been flown on many government facilities, state facilities, town
Hmm.
town flagpoles, government flagpoles, all throughout government agencies. It's still displayed in some to this day. It's been in it's been in some congressional offices.
Yeah.
That's the federal government, by the way. And we're currently working on a very big project to light up all New York State's what's it called? Landmarks, red, white, and gold instead of blue.
Yes.
Currently, it's further along than you think, that process. So a lot of things, and it's spreading like crazy. It really is. It really is. And it's there are some private organizations which I'm gonna leave out for now, but are really interested in collaborating, doing very big things with this flag, because it's very important. Because again, the whole goal is to beat the stigmas. So in order to do that, you need private industry, you need state,
Mm-hmm.
socially acceptable for the main population. Everyone on Earth knows of the Pride flag. The whole goal of this is that everyone on Earth will know the Neurodiversity Strength Flag in 1/4 of the time. That flag, the Pride flag, came out in, I believe, the 70s. That's 80, 90, 2000. That's about 50 years ago now. I'm trying to do
Yeah.
50 years worth of work on less than a decade. I'm trying to.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yes.
do, but this is where currently are. There's some
Mm-hmm.
residents also, but it's important. And right now, there's lots of collaboration. And the thing which I want to emphasize is that this is bipartisan because in the United, I don't know if you have any international viewers, so I'll go on.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so for our international friends, in the United States of America, there are two main political parties. There's the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. They are the main players in our
Mm-hmm.
system. I'm very pleased to say that we have had support from both parties on this, and actually, both parties have had parts in flying this. The first town
Yeah.
ever to fly this flag was heavily Republican, which many people may be surprised, but it was them who first raised it. Then there are also Democrat towns too, but we have had bipartisan support. When things go up for votes and stuff in the New York State Capitol, we have not had one person vote against it. That means an entire chamber full of Democrats and Republicans have
Yeah.
agreed on this.
This
So
is amazing. Where do you think this is going to go? What's the goal? Where's it going? And what's the
I want this to kill the stigmas. That is what I want. I want to punch the stigmas. This is how you beat the stigmas. You get this thing more and more known. You beat the stigmas, and that's extremely important. I really feel that we're going to be doing that. That we are starting. There's a lot. We have a lot more ways to go. We really do. So I'm not saying like, oh, mission accomplished. No, we're nowhere near that. Nowhere at all. But this is definitely on the right path. Definitely. So we're doing good, but we have a lot more work to do.
It is. And now, as we come into the end, if there is something special you would like to say to our audience, that would be great. And also to tell our viewer or listener where they can follow you, support you, that would be great.
Yeah. So on my TikTok or my Instagram, you can follow me. I think we'll put the links down. My Instagram, I have a couple. I have a lot of like contingency ones in case one gets like down, but my main one is P47D Thunderbolt, and the flag one is Neurodiversity Strength Flag. I also have just looking up Josh Mirsky on TikTok, and I have a PayPal which you can purchase flags. About the big ones are about 110. The smaller ones, which we're really running out of, are about like I forgot. I have it written down like I think like 35, but they're really good
Awesome.
quality. Now the interesting thing also is that the state also has a whole bunch, but I got the state to pay to make them. Now those ones I can't sell; those are state ones. That's why all throughout, like for example, different state facilities, there are state paid posters of the flag everywhere. There are state flags everywhere. In Albany, which is capital New York, as well as
Yeah.
so lots of good things happening. But yeah, a lot of interesting things coming up.
Yes, it's amazing, and I will be including all these links just in case our audience couldn't just like remember all that stuff. Obviously, it's hard, and we will also have to tell everyone make sure also to watch it on YouTube because if you do, you will have a chance to see your wonderful rabbit Cotton because I've just seen Cotton. Like a minute ago, cruising. So that's an extra element of this podcast. You will get a chance to see Cotton if you watch on YouTube.
Little thing about Cotton, I'll just add this here. So a
Yeah.
little year ago, I found this little baby bunny behind a dumpster. She was abandoned by a previous person, and now she's been living here for over a year. She knows the deal. I get to bother her and cuddle her, and she gets to live here. So, yeah.
Isn't it amazing? Thank you for telling us, telling the audience. I know the story, but our audience will know the story too, and we'll get to know you more through that story as well, obviously. So thank you so much,
Thank you.
Josh, for this wonderful conversation. I appreciate it. And thank you, our wonderful audience, for listening, for tuning in. Make sure to follow Josh to support his incredible mission. I have to say, this is one of the most important missions in the world. That's what we need to say. And follow the show, Get Inspired with Dr. Barb, so you don't miss an episode. And we'll see you on social media And we cannot wait for you to tell us what you think about this, what you think about our conversation, neurodiverse, maybe friends you have, or maybe you don't. Some people never interacted with an autistic person and they are very curious too. So we need to spread the awareness more and talk more about the incredible strengths neurodivergent people have. And I know one thing, that if you have a friend who is autistic, they can literally become your friend for life. They are extremely loyal. It's just something unbelievable. And it's true, isn't it, Josh?
Most of us are.
Yeah, right.
Most of us are very loyal.
Yeah,
Everything, loyalty.
yeah. So it's one of the best ways of making a new friend. Find a neurodivergent person, because you have the likelihood of really having an incredible friend. Thank you so much. See y'all, everybody, on social media. Bye-bye. Thank you, Josh.
Bye-bye.
This is Get Inspired with Dr. Barb.